Have you ever felt like your business is running on like a patchwork of different systems? Like your sales data is here, your inventory's over there, and your financials are off in their own little world.
It's a surprisingly common problem, especially for businesses in like distribution or manufacturing. I've seen so many companies struggling to keep track of everything, relying on like manual processes and spreadsheets just to get a basic understanding of their operations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces are scattered across the room, right?
exactly.
And that's exactly the situation we're kind of diving into today. So imagine a kitchenware company, let's just call them Kitchen Supplies, plus dealing with this exact challenge. They're juggling multiple systems, one for accounting, another for warehouse management, and yet another for shipping. And get this, none of them actually talk to each other.
Right.
It's a mess.
Yeah, and that's where the concept of a business impact assessment, or BIA, comes in. Think of it as like a financial stress test for your business, right? A BIA helps you identify those hidden vulnerabilities in your processes, those weak points that could turn into major problems if you're not careful.
Okay, so how does this BIA actually play out in, the real world? Like, let's use Kitchen Supplies Plus as our example.
Sure. So, from what I understand, Kitchen Supplies Plus is a distributor of kitchenware products. They work with online marketplaces, big box retailers, even independent stores. They've got their own brand of products manufactured overseas, and they also distribute other brands as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds like a lot to keep track of. Multiple sales channels, various product lines, global supply chain. No wonder they're feeling overwhelmed.
Exactly. And their internal meeting recordings reveal that they're basically drowning in manual processes, right?
I know.
Their financial reporting is cumbersome, their inventory management is a constant headache, and their month-end processes, a nightmare of spreadsheets and manual reconciliation.
I can only imagine the frustration. It's like they're constantly putting their fires instead of focusing on like strategic growth.
You got it. And what's really concerning is that they need to balance their inventory daily between their accounting system and their separate warehouse management system.
Oh, wow.
This manual process creates a huge potential for errors and delays.
So they're not only losing time, but also risking inaccuracies that could impact, their bottom line.
Precisely. And their current system doesn't even have a way to track warranty claims effectively.
Oh, geez.
That leads to even more manual processes and potential customer service issues.
It seems like they're just stuck in a vicious cycle of inefficiency. But you mentioned a BIA can help them break free. So how does it do that?
Well, a BIA doesn't just highlight the problems, it digs deeper, right? It helps you understand the root causes and the ripple effects across the business. For example, if their inventory data is inaccurate, it affects not only their warehouse operations, but also their financial reporting, sales forecasting, even their relationships with customers.
Yeah, it's a chain reaction that could ultimately damage their reputation and profitability.
Exactly. So by identifying these vulnerabilities, a BIA empowers businesses like Kitchen Supplies Plus to make informed decisions about how to mitigate those risks and build a more resilient operation.
So how does a BIA actually translate into, tangible solutions? It sounds like they need like a major overhaul of their systems.
Right, and that's where Dynamics 365 Business Central comes into the picture. It offers like a comprehensive, integrated solution that eliminates the need for multiple disconnected systems, right? Imagine real-time data visibility across departments, automated workflows, and streamlined processes, a true 360-degree view of their business.
It sounds like a breath of fresh air for a company struggling with such, fragmented systems.
It is, and the beauty of Business Central is that it can be tailored to their specific needs, right? The BIA helps guide that implementation process, ensuring that the solution aligns with their strategic goals and addresses those unique pain points.
So it's not just about implementing software, it's about using it strategically to like transform their business.
Exactly.
But how does this actually play out? Can you give me like a concrete example of how Business Central could solve one of their, specific problem?
Sure, let's take their daily inventory balancing headache, right? With Business Central, they could say goodbye to those manual reconciliation processes. They'd have real-time insights into stock levels across all locations, allowing them to, see clearly and act faster.
I love that tagline, see clearly and act faster.
Yeah.
It like perfectly encapsulates the essence of what they're trying to achieve.
It does, right? Imagine them moving from reactive decision-making to proactive planning based on accurate, up-to-the-minute information.
It's about empowering everyone in the organization with the data they need to make, informed decisions.
Exactly. And that's just one example. From automating their financial reporting to streamlining their sales processes, Business Central can address their challenges in a holistic way, driven by the insights gained from their BIA.
I'm starting to see how powerful a BIA can be. It's not just about identifying problems, but about creating like a roadmap for a more efficient and resilient future. But let's take a step back, okay? How does the BIA process actually work? Can you break it down for me?
Absolutely. It's not as daunting as it might seem. The business impact assessment processes. It's all about understanding, identifying, assessing, and mitigating. It's a framework that helps businesses like kitchen supplies, plus, navigate change strategically.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break down those steps for me.
Sure. First, you understand your business. This means analyzing your current processes, identifying the pain points, we've been discussing, and clearly defining what you want to achieve.
So for Kitchen Supplies Plus, that would be eliminating those manual reconciliations, finding a way to track warranties efficiently, and getting, better control over their inventory.
Exactly. It's about getting a clear picture of their current state and, their desired future state.
Okay, so once they understand their business, like inside and out, what's next?
Well, the next step is identifying critical business functions. What are the processes that are absolutely essential for, their daily operations and revenue generation?
For Kitchen Supplies Plus, that might be sales order processing, inventory management, shipping, and of course, financial reporting.
You got it. But it's not enough to just list these functions. We need to go deeper, understanding the specific activities involved, the resources they rely on, and where those processes are vulnerable.
I see. It's about pinpointing those potential points of failure, those areas where, things could go wrong and have a significant impact on their business.
Precisely. And that leads us to the third step, assessing the potential impacts of disruptions to those critical functions. Let's say their inventory management system crashes, right?
Oh boy.
What happens then?
I mean, I imagine it would be chaos, right? Orders wouldn't be fulfilled, their financials would be thrown off, and, their customers would be left in the dark.
Exactly. A BIA helps them evaluate the consequences of such a disruption, the financial impact, the potential delays, the damage to customer relationships, and even the reputational risks.
It makes you realize that these vulnerabilities aren't just minor inconveniences. They could actually cripple their business if they're not addressed.
That's why this step is so crucial. It forces them to think critically about the what ifs, those potential risks that might not be immediately obvious.
So they've identified their pain points, they understand their critical functions, and they've assessed the potential risks. Now what? Do they just cross their fingers and hope for the best?
No, they move on to the fourth and final step, developing mitigation strategies. This is where they come up with, solutions to minimize those potential disruptions.
So in the case of that inventory system crash, what could their mitigation strategy be?
Remember Dynamic 365 Business Central? That could be their solution, right? Implementing a system like that with its integrated warehouse management and real-time inventory tracking could provide, the resilience they need.
It's like building a safety net, putting measures in place to prevent those disasters from happening in the first place, or, at least minimizing the damage if they do.
Exactly. A BIA empowers businesses to move from a reactive approach to a proactive one. And that's where the real value lies.
It's about building a stronger, more adaptable business, one that can weather those unexpected storms. But I'm still curious, how does Business Central specifically address those, individual pain points that Kitchen Supplies Plus is facing?
That's a great question. Let's start with their financial reporting woes. They're currently bogged down by manual processes, multiple steps, and reliance on third-party software.
It sounds incredibly inefficient and prone to, errors.
It is, but with Business Central, they can automate many of those tasks, moving away from those manual processes and, embracing the power of automation. Imagine tasks like bank reconciliation, invoice processing, and even financial reporting becoming streamlined and efficient.
So they could potentially free up their finance team to focus on, more strategic activities rather than being bogged down by tedious, repetitive tasks.
Precisely. And it's not just about saving time, it's about improving accuracy. With Business Central, they would have one single source of truth for their financial data, eliminating the risk of discrepancies.
It's about simplifying and centralizing their financial operations. Did they also mention relying heavily on spreadsheets? Especially for things like, prepaid expense allocation.
They did, and that's another area where Business Central can make a huge difference. The system has built-in functionality for managing those deferrals, automating that allocation process.
No more manual calculations or spreadsheet gymnastics.
Exactly, and this level of automation and integration extends to other areas of their business as well. Let's talk about their inventory management challenges. Remember, they were particularly vocal about needing, better visibility and control.
It sounded like they were constantly playing catch up, trying to reconcile data between their accounting system and their separate warehouse management system.
And that manual process created like a huge risk of errors and delays. But with Business Central, those days would be over. Its integrated warehouse management capabilities give them, that real-time visibility they've been craving. They'll know exactly what they have on hand, what's on order, and what's in transit, all in one centralized system.
It's like having a bird's eye view of their entire inventory operation, allowing them to, see clearly and act faster.
Exactly. That real-time data empowers them to make better decisions about purchasing, order fulfillment, and even sale forecasting. No more stockouts, minimized waste, and optimized inventory levels to meet, actual demand.
Sounds like a win-win for everyone involved, but I'm remembering another challenge they mentioned, managing different units of measure. They were dealing with individual units, case packs, and even master cartons.
That's a common challenge in their industry, but Business Central handles it seamlessly. They can define multiple units of measure for each item and track inventory at every level of packaging.
So they could see how many individual units they have, how many case packs, and how many master cartons, all in real time. No more manual conversions or guesswork.
Precisely, and that granular level of tracking is essential for accurate reporting, efficient picking and packing, and even for managing, relationships with their third-party logistics providers.
Speaking of third-party logistics, didn't they mention potentially moving to a third-party warehouse in the future? Can Business Central handle that as well?
Absolutely. It's designed to support various warehouse models, including those involving, third-party logistics providers. They can easily manage those relationships, track inventory movements, and even automate communication and data exchange.
It sounds incredibly flexible and adaptable, but what about their need to manage their own brand versus those other brands they distribute? How can they keep that all straight?
That's where Business Central's dimensions come in. They can categorize items by brand, product line, or, any other criteria. Imagine being able to easily compare the performance of their own brand against the others.
That kind of insight could inform their pricing strategies, their marketing efforts, even their inventory allocation decisions.
It's all about empowering them with the data they need to make, strategic, informed decisions. And let's not forget about their global operations.
Oh, yes, they mentioned having to manage intercompany transactions and dealing with their parent company overseas.
Business Central excels in this area as well. It can handle those intercompany transactions seamlessly, ensuring accurate financial reporting across multiple entities. They can set up intercompany relationships, define transfer pricing rules, and automate the posting of transactions, eliminating the need for manual reconciliations.
Like bringing order to like a complex global puzzle. It seems like Business Central is addressing every single one of their pain points. But there were a few more, weren't there? What about their struggles with, sales and order fulfillment?
You're right. They were dealing with a very manual, disjointed process, relying on separate systems for things like EDI, rate shopping, and shipping label generation.
And they were concerned about errors, delays, and, missed opportunities because of that.
Business Central can transform their sales operations as well, automating those tasks, improving accuracy, and, streamlining their entire order-to-cash process.
Let's start with their EDI setup. They were using a third-party provider, right? Can Business Central integrate with that?
Absolutely. Business Central has robust EDI capabilities, either through, built-in functionality or through integration with third-party providers. They can automate the exchange of documents, eliminating manual data entry.
No more, tedious data entry or the risk of those costly errors?
Exactly. And it's not just about internal efficiency. It's about improving their relationships with their trading partners through, seamless, reliable communication.
Okay, EDI is covered. What about their order entry process? They were relying heavily on manual entry, which sounded time-consuming and prone to, mistakes.
Business Central can help them streamline that as well. They can set up customer portals where customers can place orders directly, reducing manual effort and improving accuracy.
It's about empowering their customers to, self-serve, which frees up their sales team to focus on building those relationships and closing deals.
Exactly. And Business Central also offers options for automating order entry, such as importing orders from spreadsheets or integrating with, e-commerce platforms.
Didn't they mention they were struggling with managing orders from their Shopify website? Can Business Central handle that?
There are several ways to integrate Business Central with Shopify, either through built-in connectors or third-party apps. They can automate the flow of orders, inventory, and even customer data between the two systems.
It's like creating a seamless connection between, their online storefront and their back-end operations.
Exactly. And that integration goes beyond, just efficiency. It provides valuable insights into their online sales, customer behavior, and product performance.
It's all about connecting the dots and creating like a unified view of their business. But didn't they also mention challenges with managing sales commissions for their independent sales reps? It sounded like a very manual process.
It was, but Business Central can simplify that as well. The system has built-in functionality for managing those commissions, allowing them to define structures, track sales performance, and automate calculations.
So they can say goodbye to those spreadsheets and manual calculations.
Precisely. It brings clarity, accuracy, and transparency to their commission process, ensuring that their sales reps are paid fairly and on time.
It seems like Business Central is truly like a comprehensive solution, addressing their pain points across like every area of their business. But there were a couple more areas they mentioned, right? What about pricing and discounts? They were concerned about managing those across all their different sales channels.
You have a great memory. That's another crucial aspect of their business, and Business Central is like well-equipped to handle it. They can set up different price lists for different customer groups, apply volume discounts, and even create promotional pricing campaigns.
They were particularly worried about maintaining different pricing for like wholesale versus retail customers. Can Business Central accommodate that?
Absolutely. They can create separate price lists for wholesale and retail, ensuring each group sees the correct pricing information. They can also use the system to, apply discounts and promotions on a case-by-case basis.
It gives them the flexibility to be strategic with their pricing, catering to the needs of, their different customer segments.
Exactly, and it goes beyond just setting prices. Business Central lets them track sales performance by customer group, product line, or even by individual sales rep, allowing them to analyze trends and make informed decisions about their pricing strategies.
It's about turning data into actionable insights. But what about their need for like warranty management and handling returns?
That's another critical area, and Business Central is designed to support it. They can track warranty information, manage return requests, and process replacements or refunds efficiently. Remember, they were struggling with a manual, error-prone process for tracking warranty claims.
It sounded like, a customer service nightmare waiting to happen.
With Business Central, they can streamline that process, improve customer service, and even gain valuable insights into product quality.
It's about turning a potential problem into like an opportunity for improvement.
Exactly. And finally, let's not forget their shipping processes. They were using a separate system for rate shopping and generating shipping labels, which created, a disconnect.
And they were worried about missing out on like potential cost savings because of it.
Business Central can integrate with various shipping providers, either directly or through third-party apps, streamlining their entire fulfillment process.
I remember they specifically mentioned using a system called TechShip. Can Business Central integrate with that?
While there might not be like a direct integration, it's likely possible to connect the two systems through, APIs or custom integrations.
So they could potentially keep their existing system while still like benefiting from the integration with Business Central.
Exactly. And by connecting their shipping processes, they gain better visibility into costs, can track shipments in real time, and even automate the generation of shipping documents and labels.
It's about closing the loop and creating a more efficient, connected operation. But what about their unique requirement for generating packing slips based on information from Shopify and Amazon? Can Business Central handle that kind of customization?
That's a great point. It highlights their need for flexibility. Business Central is a highly customizable system, allowing them to tailor their processes to, their specific requirements.
So they could work with a Business Central partner to, adapt the system to their unique needs.
Precisely. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's like a platform that can be molded and shaped to fit their specific business processes.
It sounds like Business Central could be the answer to all their prayers. But you've said it before, and I think it's important to reiterate, it's not just about implementing software, it's about transforming their business.
You're absolutely right. And that transformation requires careful planning, a thorough understanding of their needs, and a commitment to change management. It's a journey, not a destination.
And that's what we'll explore in the final part of this deep dive. We'll look at the implementation process, the key considerations, and the importance of, getting everyone on board for a successful transformation. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Kitchen Supplies Plus and their journey towards implementing Dynamics 365 Business Central.
We've uncovered quite a few layers of their business, from their operational headaches to the potential solutions that Business Central offers.
Yeah, we've seen how a business impact assessment, or BIA, can reveal those hidden vulnerabilities and, guide their implementation process.
Now let's shift our focus to that implementation process itself. It's not just about flipping a switch and watching the magic happen overnight. It takes careful planning and a commitment to change.
That makes sense, especially for a company with, their level of complexity. Where do they even begin?
The first step is, defining the scope of their implementation. Which modules of Business Central will they use? What processes will they automate? What integrations are needed?
It's like creating a roadmap for their journey, making sure everyone understands, the destination and how to get there.
Exactly. And that roadmap needs to align with their overall business strategy, addressing their specific pain points that, we've been discussing. They also need to assemble a strong implementation team involving key stakeholders from different departments.
You've mentioned the importance of a Business Central partner in this process. So what role do they play?
A good partner can make all the difference. They bring experience and expertise to the table, guiding kitchen supplies, plus through, every step of the implementation, from planning and configuration to data migration and go-live support.
Kitchen Supplies Plus mentioned working with a third-party provider for their EDI setup. Would they need to, involve them in the implementation as well?
Absolutely. Integrating Business Central with their existing systems, including that EDI provider, is critical to avoid disruptions and ensure a smooth transition.
It sounds like communication and collaboration are, key throughout this entire process.
They are. Keeping everyone on the same page, from the internal team to the Business Central partner and, any third-party vendors, is crucial for success.
So once they have their plan in place, their team assembled, and their communication channels open, what's next?
Then comes the exciting part: configuration and customization. This is where Kitchen Supplies Plus gets to tailor Business Central to their specific needs. They'll define their chart of accounts, set up their inventory structure, configure sales processes, and, make sure the system reflects their unique way of doing business.
Remember their unique requirement for generating packing slips from Shopify and Amazon. This is where they'd work with their partner to, figure out that customization.
Exactly. This phase is all about making Business Central work for them, not the other way around.
It sounds like a very hands-on process requiring close collaboration between their team and that Business Central partner.
It is, and this is where those BIA insights we talked about become, so valuable. By understanding their processes and requirements, inside and out, they can ensure that Business Central is configured to support their goals and solve those pain points we've been discussing.
They're not just implementing software, they're shaping it to fit their business like a glove. But even with the system configured and customized, they're not quite ready to, go live, right?
You're right. They still need to tackle data migration, which can be a bit like, moving from one house to another. They need to transfer all their data from their old systems, like their accounting software and their warehouse management system, into Business Central.
Didn't they also mention, rolling on a lot of spreadsheets? Will they need to bring that data over as well?
That's a great point. They'll need to figure out what to do with all that spreadsheet data, whether it's, migrated, cleaned up, or archived. Data migration requires careful planning and validation to make sure everything is, accurate and complete.
They mentioned having a lot of historical data. Will they need to, migrate all of it?
Not necessarily. They can be strategic about their data migration scope, focusing on what's essential for their current operations and compliance requirements.
So they can prioritize and choose, what's most important to bring over to their new system.
Exactly. And this is where their Business Central partner can provide guidance, developing a data migration plan that ensures a smooth and, accurate transfer of information.
Okay. Imagine they've migrated their data, configured the system, and they're finally ready to go live. What happens then?
The go-live phase is a big moment. It's showtime. They're officially switching from their old systems to Business Central, so they need a solid plan to make, the transition as smooth as possible.
What does that plan typically involve?
It includes thorough training for their staff, rigorous testing of the system, and, readily available support during those first few weeks. They need to anticipate potential challenges and have contingency plans in place to keep everything, running smoothly.
It sounds like preparation is, key to avoiding any major hiccups during that transition.
Absolutely. And they need to make sure everyone in the company, understands the changes, knows how to use the new system, and feels comfortable reaching out for help if they need it.
I remember they mentioned a potential roadblock. Their IT specialist wouldn't be available during, a crucial part of the implementation. How do they navigate a situation like that?
That's where flexibility and problem solving come in. They might need to, bring in additional resources, document their processes meticulously, or even adjust their timeline to accommodate that challenge.
It's all about adapting and finding solutions, but once they're live, their journey isn't over, is it?
You're right. Implementing Business Central is not like a one and done deal. It's an ongoing process of continuous improvement, staying up to date with system updates, and making sure they're getting the support they need to keep everything running smoothly.
It sounds like, a living, breathing system that needs to be nurtured and adapted over time. But what about their employees? They're the ones who will be using Business Central every day. How do they get, everyone on board with this transformation?
That's where change management comes in. Kitchen Supplies Plus needs to communicate, the benefits of Business Central to their employees, provide comprehensive training, and address any concerns or resistance to change.
They mentioned their employees concerned about the learning curve of, a new system. How can they make that transition easier?
They can offer, role-based training tailored to each department's needs. They can provide ongoing support through online tutorials, user guides, or even a dedicated internal help desk. The goal is to make everyone feel comfortable and confident, using Business Central.
It's a multifaceted approach that requires empathy, clear communication, and a commitment to, supporting their employees through the transition.
Exactly. It's an investment in their people that will pay dividends in the long run. When employees feel empowered to use Business Central effectively, the company can, unlock the full potential of the system and achieve those goals we've been talking about.
So it's not just about, the technology, it's about the people who will be using it.
Absolutely. A successful Business Central implementation is a collaborative effort that involves everyone in the organization, from the leadership team to, the frontline staff.
It's about working together towards a common goal, transforming their business into a more efficient, resilient, and insightful operation.
And for any financial decision makers out there who might be, considering a similar journey, remember that a BIA is a crucial first step. It helps you understand your needs, define your goals, and lay the groundwork for a successful implementation of a solution like, Dynamics 365 Business Central.
It's about more than just software. It's about investing in a future where your business can see clearly and act faster.
Ready to transform your business? We're here to help you every step of the way.